welcome to the program.
Thank you.
On this platform tonight, we'll take a look at women in the race, how they are faring. This, of course, is the IEA Election Watch 2012. First question, why is gender so important in elections? Prof, you may like to start us off.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to our viewers. Gender is extremely important in these elections, primarily because the gender issue in this country has taken center stage, or must take center stage, in order to propel the agenda of development forward. It is important that women, who constitute more than 51% of the population, have a critical opportunity to contribute to the development of this country. And leadership, which in this case is facilitated through participation in elections and getting into elected office, provides that avenue, that opportunity for women to do that. And I think that we have a situation where over the years, the question of, and in Ghana, generally, the gender question actually comes down to women. And so we are specifically talking about women's participation in governance through elected office. And I think that it is important that we provide the opportunities for women to participate in that process. But above all, I think it is because when women participate in elected office, rub shoulders with the male counterparts, and succeed at the game of politicking, they bring something entirely different. When they are allowed, they bring, I believe, a different tenor to politics. They bring the normal attributes or virtues of womanhood, the feminine virtues, which are superior, in my judgment, the virtues of caring and loving and sharing and all of that, that are less combative, less aggressive, even notwithstanding, of course, the fact that we have the aggressive male profile, which many women also adopt in order to try and participate in that government. But women in governance, especially in elected office, bring a different approach to and style to the context. And it is important that those values and virtues that they embody be allowed to flourish. Unfortunately, that tends not to be the case, and they also tend to be as aggressive as men. But I think that as the discussion proceeds, we should pick up the question of how we can engender a different kind of approach which enables these feminine virtues to also infiltrate and affect how we perceive the way that politics ought to be played, and how governance, the business of governance and leadership, ought to be carried out.
Thank you. Susan Liduamankwa is the first national vice chairperson. We've contested elections before.
This time.
This time. Have we succeeded?
No, I didn't.
Why haven't we? No, have we succeeded as a nation?
Okay. No, we haven't. I don't think that they were not enough to contest in the first place. And so definitely not all of us would win, and so there will not be enough going into Parliament. I mean, to achieve the 30%, that which is the basic, the numbers that contested were not enough. If you look at the figures that were given us and those who contested, out of a total of almost 1,000, 200 plus who contested for the 275 seats, only 134 were women. Now, if you want to do the mathematics, you need at least 3 or 4 times that number of women to contest, to get the 30%. So, we're not doing well. And of course, there are the factors that hinder women getting into politics in the first place, and then being in politics, the women who will then contest for public office, because you can have women in politics and yet will not contest for public office. So we need to get, there are various hurdles that you need to get out. But first we need to get the critical mass, getting into politics, and then get the numbers that will contest before we can achieve the 30% that we are looking at, and even before the actual dream of a equity of 50-50.
Professor Tefa just gave us a wide range of benefits that we can benefit from with women involvement. What is the reason with the 30%?
No, I think that the 30% was all these international agreements that said that you should have at least 30% of women in the decision.
A good basis, but I'm asking why.
I'm hard pressed to find out how the 30% came about, but I think that they must have done their own calculations and thought that 30% should be a starting point. I think that it's, if you're looking at a population where the women are more, then you should have equity, and then that would mean that you should have 50% at the very least, But I think that every journey starts with some step, and so, looking at the hurdles where at this moment you have only 8% of women parliamentarians, maybe you want to start with 30 and then move on and move on. So 30 should be the basic, I guess, and then move on from there.
Professor Tefa, great attributes, wonderful benefits. Have we lost any such benefit because of the less number of women in parliament?
So have we
lost any of such benefit because there are less women in parliament?
Oh, certainly. But before I do that, let me quickly add, to complement what my sister just said, the 30% is a minimum standard. I think since 1975 Copenhagen World Conference on Women, there has been a demand for increased participation of women in the systems of relevance, in the centers of governance and leadership. And there has been an acknowledgement that women have suffered what Canadian Justice Rosalie Abela of Ontario calls the glass ceiling, and that there are also patriarchal barriers and many other forms of systemic hindrances that prevent women from advancing and from participating effectively in governance. And therefore, it is important that certain minimum benchmarks are established in order to advance that project. And so the 30% has come, and I think that even in the Millennium Development Goals, that has been one of the targets established, that at minimum, countries must aim at achieving this. And different strategies have been advanced for achieving this, such as affirmative action or specialized targeting, headhunting in terms of recruitment and appointments and all of that. So that's one. But I think coming back to your your main question, have we lost something? I think we have lost a great deal. I mean, imagine the kind of society that we would create. And I think that we have ancient examples to look at. But imagine the kind of society that we could create when we expand the space for women to participate effectively, not as the ones who are serving tea and decorating panels, but the ones who are actually making the critical decisions. You would find that there is a greater concentration on issues that affect the well-being of children and the well-being of husbands, the well-being of sons, rather than the way that things are structured at the moment, that when men, and I mean male Homo sapiens as such, control governance and head institutions, that's what we have had by and large throughout society, more or less, I mean, across time and space. And in all those situations, it is doubtful how well we have advanced. It is rather arguable that if the feminine attributes of nutritiveness, of compassion, of caring, of less aggression, and all of those were allowed to blossom, that we would have a society that evinces these values, a society that is more caring, that's more compassionate, that is more attentive to the genuine needs of human beings, rather than sometimes the kinds of things that have engaged our attention and our resources, such as acceleration in armament and the kinds of military builds-up that have engaged our attention. If we paid attention, for example, to school teachers, if we paid attention to kindergarten teachers and paid them as well as we pay, for example, university lecturers, we would see a different quality in education. That alone, without, and I don't mean any of the debates, political debates that's going on, just simply taking better care of teachers and nurses, those who also take care of the generations that are yet to blossom into the adult population that we often then complain didn't get the best attention. But it is often because we didn't take very good care of them. If we do that, we would see a lesser population that is prepared to engage in armed robbery, for example, because they would have been taught by, and I don't mean in the sense only female teachers, but male teachers as well, who embody the kinds of values that I'm talking about.
Dr. Doris Yadate, it seems to me that we haven't done enough. What role should men have played in bringing about this whole idea of women participation to bear fruit?
Well, both men and women have a role to play. I would like to take the discussion even to looking at the world at large. When you look at the economic geography of the world, the countries that have done well and are doing well are those in the regions of the world that bring up women and do not look down on women, where the culture of male superiority have over time let go and allowing female to participate in running of the countries. So as Ghana continues to brag to be the beacon, the best country on the continent, and we've been torchbearers in several areas. But when it comes to the woman question, if we are honest with ourselves, we will know that we are found wanting. Fewer and fewer women are getting the chance to play a role. And as has been said previously, it appears the female role is being entrenched in serving tea and cooking and cleaning. But for this society to advance, especially as we aspire to become a true middle income country, I think this should be a major aspiration of Ghana, that we should bring up women to also play a role. Yes, men have a role to play, but I think women too, we also have to make an effort, not to just wait to be picked up and move, but we should also make an effort. And probably the country as a whole should also start considering something like legislation. Affirmative action might be a good way to go, because if we should just leave society alone, if we should leave men alone to sit back or to withdraw a little bit to allow women to take on some role, I don't think it's going to happen. For instance, the major political parties, NDC and MPP, they had the chance to bring females as, if for nothing at all, they are running mates. Did that happen? Professor Mills died, and President Mahama had the chance to bring a female as a running mate. He did not. Only the minor political parties, the PPP, PNC, CPP, picked women. And now that with the provisional results coming out, we know that these parties are not doing well. So that immediately brings an end to aspirations of women becoming vice presidents in the next 4 years, up to 2016. So as we move forward up to 2016, I think the major political parties, it's about time, if they are truly convinced about the issue of bringing women into governance. I think it should be a very noble thing for the major political parties to do, to bring women, at least for vice presidential candidates.
Dr. Yadate, Beijing was a big success many, many years ago.
Oh,
you're talking about legislation with regard to bringing women into the fold, when earlier on Susan just told us that there are other levels that are not competitive where women participate in governance. Legislation? How?
Yes, for instance, the political parties, we could come up with a decision, a commitment that even the parties themselves could. Professor Mills started something, which is probably one of the first times we've heard of a political party or a presidential candidate boldly, affirmatively say that he was going to bring 40% women into his administration. Of course, that didn't happen. And that 40% was even higher than the minimum standard of 30%. But we've seen that promise slip through our fingers. So yes, legislation, or commitments, you could call them even commitments, the political parties can commit and actually do it. But if we continue this way, the next 100 years, females in Ghana will still constitute 8%, maybe will go down to 5%, 3%, until there might be 0 females in governance of this country. And that's not healthy for our country, for our democracy. If we are calling this a democracy, what kind of democracy is this? That 51% of the population sit back in safety whilst the remaining 49% rule. I mean, that's not democracy.
Are they willing enough, our women, to participate, go on the platforms, debate the issues, compete?
Yeah, we need some culture change maybe, but...
Well, okay, Prof, before you come in, let me start again with Susan. It seems to me that when you look at the figures, from the numbers I have here, there's an increase. But compared to increases in parliamentary seats, we are not doing well at all. 92, we have a list of 16 MPs, women. 96, 18, 2018, 2004, 25, and 2008, 20. On the surface, that looks like an increase.
Yeah, you're talking about the raw figures, but if we look at it in terms of percentage, we're going down. So yes, numbers, yes, but percentage, no. And so that is what is important, the percentage of the women that are participating. And, you know, but coming to talk about what Doc was talking about, yes, the politics, our social order has to change somehow, or the way we are, socialization has to change. In the first place, politics looks to be a rough game. Leadership tends to look like the bull in the china, you know, type, whereas women have a much more nurturing type of leadership. And so you find that it seems like women who go into politics are out of place. They're different. You're seeing more of an aberration than the norm. You know, we need to change that, where women going into politics are not an aberration. It's normal. It should be something that is part of it. Women tend to be socialized not to be ambitious. Politics tends to be an ambitious game. You want power, you know. And so if you are a woman and you do that, then it seems as if it's out of place. Society has been paying lip service to, oh, we want more women, we want more women, but they do not want more women because they don't act it. They say it, but they don't act it. They don't vote for the woman. They are not even looking at the competence of the woman to say that this woman is competent compared to a man. Because any woman, for you to succeed, you must be 10 times that man in the same position, you know, before you even be looked at. And so any woman in a particular position, you know, you ought to realize immediately that she has climbed several hurdles and is there, and ought to be given the chance to do that. But unfortunately, our society is not acting, or is not walking the talk. They're doing the talk, but they're not walking it.
Well, that brings me to my next question for us to discuss. Do women have special needs in order to be brought on board? Prof, can you take this one?
I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by whether women have special needs. I don't know whether by needs you mean by attributes or requirements.
Support system to encourage them, to motivate them.
Oh, yes. I think that in our context, where patriarchy rules and where there are visible and invisible barriers to women's effective participation in politics and in the contest, the political contest to begin with, we need to create systems that are supportive or will be supportive of women who enter the political arena. We need to, number one, begin to de-emphasize politics as a sumo wrestling, as this kind of horrible context that people like myself shudder to contemplate, because I don't want to be flung into the mud that we create the moment you offer yourself for public service through the political contest. So, of course, that itself constitutes a barrier to a lot of women. If we could foster the kind of societal arrangements that assure women that they could participate in civil, politicking in society, and that people will not, that is, males and females who are patriarchal-minded, because there are quite a number of women whose mentality are as horribly dominated by patriarchal thinking as those who are men filled with testosterone. And so it is important that we create that kind of social and political atmosphere that assure women that they will be treated fairly and decently. And I don't mean softly, because politics is not necessarily a soft game, but there is no reason why politics ought to be offensive and full of insults and full of the aggression that characterizes it. And you know, if we could create that kind of arrangement, and by that arrangement I mean the kind of support system that allows a woman to be assured that her children will be taken care of while she goes out there doing campaigning, that there will be, whether it's a caucus of women or it is some kind of institutionalized arrangement that enables the domestic arena, the domestic aspects of her life to be appropriately taken care of, because she may be living in an urban area where she does not have, or in a rural, even in a rural area where she may not have aunties and cousins who are easily available to provide that support. So that's one. Second, financial support. There ought to be a Women in Politics Fund or a Women in Political Development Fund created by civil society, perhaps supported by government, or created by government and supported by civil society. That provides a certain amount of seed money to support women who offer themselves for politics, for political office. That this is a minimum support level that you can fall on in order to campaign. And I mean, that is part of the affirmative action policy considerations that I think Dr. Date was alluding to when she talked about legislation. So that, yes, it will be discriminatory, but affirmative action is, yes, inherently discriminatory, but it is the kind of discrimination that is permissive or permissible in order to ensure that those who have been left behind by centuries of neglect and ill treatment are brought to the same level or the same scale before the whistle is blown for the goal. It's like a race, by analogy. So I think there are a number of things that can be carefully thought through and implemented to support women who want to get into politics, so that when they fail, among other things, if and when they fail, that it is not a crushing defeat, that they can pick up the pieces and move on with their lives. And when they succeed, we will see a change in the quality of politicking in our society. When more and more women come into politics, I think that at the minimum, we will see greater humanity than we see today, greater decency, and greater integrity. There will be, at minimum, less sexual harassment in our offices. We would see the quality of society improve because women bring attributes. When a woman takes a bribe, they rarely do relative to men, but when they do take bribes, it is not to go and spend on a boyfriend. It is usually to spend on family needs. When men take bribes, it is usually to support errant girlfriends. And you know, so there are different attributes and values that come to it. And I'm not by any means suggesting that taking a bribe by a woman is a good thing.
Certainly a bribe is a bribe.
It's a bribe, a bribe is a bribe, and I'm just saying that the kinds of factors that impel women into deviance are often qualitatively different from those that motivate men to engage in crime and deviance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Doris Yadate. Women and their support.
Women, the type of support
The type of support they need, yeah.
Yes, I do agree with all the points Ken just raised. Women do need support. In any society where you find a segment of the society left behind, the societies, whenever they want to bring about change, they take certain systematic, strategic decisions and actions to bring change about. I don't think it just happened from outer space that Barack Obama became president of the United States of America. No. It didn't happen by chance. It happened because from the civil rights movement, the Martin Luther King, Jr., and all the others, systematically, there's been a build-up to the point that America knew that the time has come. The time had come 4 years ago to elect the first black president. Otherwise, it would never have happened, because racism, there's still racism in the U.S. It was thicker. It is thinning or thawing over time. So the type of female exclusion we experience in this society, which has become so entrenched, for us to see a change, this country has to make a collective decision with determination, with commitment to bring about change, and maybe slowly but gradually see an improvement. Because right now, there are too few females in the public space. It's as if we have two spaces in the country, one space for the men and another space for the females. You go to the market and you see these women, they are so hardworking. You see them at dawn, they wake up, they travel on these vehicles, risking their lives to go and convey foodstuffs to the city centers, town centers, for us to buy food to eat. These are hardworking people, women with potential to help develop a country. But we've left them in